Fantastic. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our Builders Call. It's the third week of the month, and there is a smaller group on here, I am sure, because I dropped the ball on promotion of getting a text reminder out this morning about the call today. However, I'd like to take advantage of the smaller group that's here. We've got Brad, Valerie, MC, Jeff, Don, Will, Erica, and Selena all on today. And when there's fewer people on a call, we can have more people chiming in and bringing value or questions to the conversation. I've been thinking a lot just to kind of lay the foundation as we go into the call about business and life and the balance of those two things and really being most effective. And as we were here at Fantasy Camp this week, Dallas Braden, who is a former, all-star pitcher for the A's, he said something about his dream board, and he immediately, I wheeled around and I said, "Oh, what do you mean? Tell me about your dream board." And he goes, "Oh, well, I always work with a dream board and I have everything visual. And then once I know that, then I have a plan in place and I work backwards from it on, with time bound, and I let other people know about it and I have accountability on what those things are." And I'm like, "Really?" And he goes, "Absolutely." And I said, "And how often do the things that are on your dream board happen?" And he goes, "100% of the time." He said it just like that. I said, "Really? Everything that you've put on there or that you continue to put on there happens and comes to reality?" And he goes, "100% of the time." And so it was interesting, right? And there was another conversation that came up with Adam Rosales, who's another former pitcher for the A's. And we were talking about, books to read. Think and Grow Rich was one of the ones that came up. And I asked him if he had read it. And he goes, "As a matter of fact, I did. And when I started doing the auto suggestion piece that's taught in that book, I went from batting 180 to 60 days later, batting 400. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is, a lot of times we jump on this call and we're in the how part and the what part of recruiting and attracting and building. And there's this foundational piece that before we get to the creation of that in reality is the internal work that we each do and go through. And maybe some more than others, and maybe some haven't even started that process yet, that lays the foundation for those things to happen, right? So if we put that conversation in the context of, if you're here with a vision and a dream to build an organization, and you were to dream board that out, what your organization looks like, who are the people that you want to be in business with, even if you're not in business with them yet? And of those, what do you see? Maybe there's people that are currently in your organization, and what is their vision and their dreams? And do you know what those are? I know for different leaders in our group that they've got goals of 5,000 or 10,000 or, hitting 1,000 agents by a certain time or 500 by a certain time. And more importantly, why? And all of that being important. And then the next piece of that is that power that happens when you start to really work with the neuroplasticity in your brain of programming it to align all of those things to actually happen, which is more of the inside job, right? It's the inside job that we do on ourselves, and to make those and then align that with the activities that we take in real life. So I wanted to open up the call today with that. Of course, if there's topics or questions that any of you have that you want to bring to the conversation today, you can come off mute and do that, or throw them in the chat and we'll make sure to circle back on them. However, would love to start today's conversation on if you have used that. Well, first off, I guess just by a show of hands, how many have read Think and Grow Rich, or familiar with the principle around auto suggestion and are using it actively to create in your business and your life right now?
I've read it. I haven't used it, but
okay, so about half of the people that are on the call today. For the other half that are not, is it that you haven't been introduced to it, or it's something that you were introduced to and just haven't integrated yet?
I would say I've heard of the book, but I haven't read it. Right now I'm reading, what am I reading right now? I'm reading The Gap and the Gain.
Oh, that's a good one.
And this is Brad. I'm hello everybody. I'm not familiar with the book. I'll look into it, but anyways, thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, absolutely. So for Brad and Dawn, the early 1920s, Napoleon Hill was commissioned to write the book, and it took him 20 years to write the book. And what he did was he interviewed people that were the most successful people of the time, people like Thomas Edison, Thomas Jefferson, people that had done really huge things. And he was interviewing them for commonalities in what they had used or done to create success. And in every single instance, there was essentially this roadmap that they were all doing, either knowingly or unknowingly, that was responsible for them creating what they did. And so he documented that in the book, Think and Grow Rich. And it is one of the oldest foundational, books on the principles of really how to create. I was at an event over the weekend. I left Fantasy Camp for a couple of days because I had a speaking engagement at another event. And there was about 900 people that I was speaking to. And I asked how many people, just by a show of hands, had read the book, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And about 5% of the room raised their hand. And I was like, oh, I think I take for granted the immersion in personal development that Rick and I have done over the years. But that book, As a Man Thinketh, again, is one of those that was written in the early 1900s. And the entire premise of that book is off a proverb, which is, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. Not as a man thinketh in his brain, as a man thinketh in his heart. And not that your heart thinks, however, there's a part of your brain that's the subconscious part of your brain that drives behavior based on feelings and emotions and programming, some of which you may be aware of and others which you may be in the dark about and have blind spots around. And so if we look at human beings and the capacity of our capability that we die with, they say that we don't even use up to 5% of what our brain's capacity is over a lifetime. Even some of the smartest, most accomplished, well-read, well-studied people. And when you look at that, it really becomes, mind-boggling as to what's possible to create when we start to learn how to create at a really high level. And it doesn't mean that you're working, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. A lot of it can be, what if I am working less and creating a different result and outcome and being that much more effective because I'm sharpening the saw of my mind and the skills and the tools from where everything gets created anyways. And I'm personally aligned to be able to make that kind of connection and make that kind of impact. And that inside work that we do in this context of attraction and recruiting then becomes like flypaper. We become like flypaper, essentially. As I went around and met people that were here, during the course of this week, it's like made connections with them as human beings. And then, oh, by the way, what do you do? And then when it's the what you do, oh, my mom's looking to sell her house and she's in Alameda. And the realtor we had was not a great experience. Boom, there's business that shows up, right? Sitting right next to me at the table at dinner last night, because of being really clear on those things and being, intentional. So from that perspective, I think there's an opportunity. I know there's an opportunity for me to be more disciplined in that area, as far as making it a daily habit and a daily practice. And for those of you that have read The Miracle Morning, there's a component of that in there. However, we get to grow as big and as fast as we want to grow based on the work that we're doing. That's the invisible work behind the scenes that nobody knows about and nobody sees, that becomes very abundantly evident in reality with results. So, Selena, yes.
I was thinking about something that you said with his dream board, and just also what you're talking about with sort of knowing what you want. And it's making me think, as you know, I'm reading Be Your Future Self now, and it's sort of in alignment with that too. And even with, I've been coaching this week and my clients, it's when you are clearly able to define what you want, not necessarily just saying, I want a big organization or I want this, but when you visualize it and you have it so clearly defined, and Benjamin Hardy mentions this in the book, it almost pulls you towards it, right? Because you defined it so well and you visualize it so well as a result of that. When you're thinking about it or meditating or whatever it is that you're, visualizing it so much, it's like that dream and that vision is pulling you towards it because it's so clearly defined. So when I've been coaching this week and I tell people, I'm like, tell me about what you want, it has to be so detailed, right? So when you guys are thinking about your organization and what you want to build, don't say, oh, I just, I want to build my organization. Like, I want you to like get super duper granular. How many people is that? How big is that? What is the income you want to gain from it? Exactly who is it, if that's what it is? Like, if you've got certain people in your mind that you've been thinking about, like, put them on paper or put them on a whiteboard and look at it every day, so that is literally what you're visualizing every day, that these are the people I see in my organization and why, and it will pull you towards it every day. And you'll just see that you're like getting drawn towards that future because now you've defined it. When it's nebulous, when it's some, I tell this story a lot. I was talking to a newbie agent and she said for her goal, she said, oh, I want to go to Europe. And I was like, great, where are we going? I don't know. And I was like, oh, okay, well, how do we know how much we're spending or how much we're saving for? And she was like, well, okay, I'll go to France. Great. How long are we going for? I don't know. Well, are we traveling first class, or are we traveling coach? I mean, where are we staying? Like, we had no idea. And I was like, okay, well, then how much do we know? We don't know how much to save for. And when she went back and I was like, come back to me in 2 weeks, and I want the entire trip planned, what we're staying, how we're traveling, who's going, exactly. And when she came back, now bear in mind, she thought this trip was completely unattainable to her, completely unattainable, because it was nebulous. And when she came back and she clearly defined where she was staying, how much the flights were, what she thought she'd spend and whatnot, she realized she only had to sell 2 houses to reach the goal. Right? So clearly define it, whatever it is, and it will pull you there. So that's my takeaway. Like, it will literally just, it's like a magnet. It's just going to pull you right to it. So
Yep.
that's my takeaway.
I love that. You don't need to know the how, because the how is, when the why is clear, the how becomes irrelevant. It will happen. So I guess this is a great place to start, in the absence of having any questions in the chat so far, is as you look at, okay, we're in 2023, it's January, it's the beginning of a new month. Let's talk about what you want in 2023, and specifically when we talk about what you want, the context of this call is an organization and building and growing an organization. And so let's start off with the conversation of number of agents based on what your goals are, and when that happens, why that's important for you and what's going to happen as a result of it. And look at that in numbers so that there's a specific plan. So who's clear on that would like to start?
Right now I have 11 FLAs, 7 FLQAs. I'd like to be at 15 FLQAs. I'm at 80 in my org, but I'd like to be at 250.
Okay. And what happens when you hit 250? Why 250?
Well, at 250, that would put me at $200,000 in passive revenue. Currently, I own 17 rental properties. 13 are free and clear. Generates me about $10,000 a month. My wife makes $10,000 a month. And at $40,000 a month, I have enough money to basically retire.
Okay, awesome. So here's one thing that I would say about that is, a lot of times when we set goals and then we hit them, we don't set a new goal. And in the absence of, like, you're on your way to that, and that will happen. So it could be really great as you're working towards that, Dawn, to start to look at what's after that and what's the stretch and what does that mean? Because the way that, and this is, a distinction in the difference of how Rick and I look at goals, and there's not a right way and a wrong way. It's just, he has a perspective on it and I have a perspective on it. So, my way when I look at goals is like, hey, no shit, no kidding. And here's why.
What happens if I have a goal to set no goals?
Yeah. Well, and he is big, hairy, audacious. So he's like, big, and he figures that in the energy that it takes to run towards that big, hairy, audacious goal, he'll trip over the one that was really important to him, like the 250 on the way to the other one, and create a different energy and momentum with it. So, versus me, I'm like, okay, we're at 80 and we're going to 250. I would be like, okay, and here's by when that's happening. And then it's all hands on deck to create that by that time frame, reset and go again. So we have different methodologies that we work with based on what works for us as people. And so regardless if you, whichever one it is that you resonate with, those are just some things to keep, would be things to keep in mind as you're looking at that.
Okay.
And then the other thing to factor in is there's always going to be attrition while there's attraction. So hitting that 250 may mean that doesn't look like 250 6 months later. If, it's important to understand the principle that things are always in growth or decay. And so as we look at that, when we're building and growing, we're like, okay, well, here's our goals of where we're going. However, we understand that arriving there doesn't mean checking out of life and the business, because in the process of doing that actually sends the whole thing into decay on some level, where there'll be a constriction and compression. So those are important mindset things, I think, to have, just kind of in there as you're on your way towards that. And that's amazing starting point and clarity. So congratulations. All right, who else?
Go.
Go, Will.
All right. So my first year, I recruited 42 people, and then that got me 170. So this year, I want to recruit 25 new FLQAs, because a lot of the people that I recruited on my front line, they're not recruiting. And my goal in the next 2 years is to get to 1,000. So I've adopted, if it's to be, it's up to me. So I feel like I need to recruit 25 new people on my front line. Because again, when we had Dave Kennord on, he said something that just stuck out to me. He said that we think of everyone as a snowball, So he said to line them up on an edge, and then you just kind of nudge them, and some people go 6 feet, some people go 6 miles, and some people turn into avalanches. Well, I've only had one avalanche, so I need to get more people to see who's also going to become an avalanche. But my first year goal was just to take care of my living expenses. And this year I have a goal of, I want to build a team now. So now I have a goal of domination. So I wanted to build up enough to take care of my personal expenses. Now I want to build up enough to basically take over my whole market with marketing. So I want to take the rev share money and pump it back into my business and grow this really big team where everybody basically has no choice but to join me.
I love that. So one thing that you may look at in that, if you're adding 25 new FLQAs and we say that maybe 10% of those will become builders, then 10%, that means, so I look at like leadership team. So let me back up. I'm speaking without being clear. When I say team, I'm referring to the real estate sales team, like Rick Jiha's sales team. When I say organization, I'm referring to all the agents that are not part of the actual sales team. So what I'm hearing you say, Will, is that you want to build a real estate sales team in your local market, which will support you adding 25 new FLQAs on your way to 1,000 total agents, so that you get that snowball effect, whoever those people are going to self-select and become, that grow the organization to 1,000. So one thing that can help with that is if you put out there never knowing who the exact people are going to be. However, one of those people, one of those 25 FLQAs that come in, man, I want to find someone that has a goal to build 1,000 of their own agents. And maybe it's another one of those FLQAs that come in that has a goal to do what you did the first year and add over 100, right? So that you start to, in that, being specific about what you're looking to attract, because you are more clear And more specific, it's not just the FLQAs and the team and the size of the org. It's okay, now we can add another layer of specificity to, as those people come in. Like now I'm looking specifically as those 25 are coming in. Oh, are you the one that wants to grow to 100 this year? Are you the one that wants to grow to 500? Are you the one that wants to grow to 1,000 based on whatever their personal goals are? And then that clarity and that energy in that direction, focus in that direction, those people will be the people that will be attracted and come to you because you're doing that inside work and have that vision and energy going towards that outward creation and manifestation, if that makes sense.
You know me, I'm just taking it all in.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. So I'm going to give you an example. Brent, let me just pull up I'm going to pull up the text between Brent and James and myself. So it was the beginning of January and we were texting about this. And here's what I said for us, that our 2023 goals are 60 FLQAs, 4,500 agents in our organization, 200 of those being icon agents, because we had what, Selena, 79 icon agents for 2022.
79.
Yeah, we had
Yep.
79 icon agents for 2022. So we want to have 200 icon agents in 2023, which means we have a big focus on production and helping people with production and talking more about production to support that. And then 20 agents within our organization that will have 40 FLQAs, meaning they're maxing out the plan for whatever the size of their organizations look like. So those are our specific goals. And then, Brent came back with theirs, which are 80 FLQAs for he and James, 30,000 agents in their 7 levels with a total of 50,000 agents in their organization, and 29 of those legs with over 100 in the organization, 12 of those legs having 400 or more in their organization, and 7 of those legs having 1,000 or more in their organization, and 23 of those legs at 20 plus FLQA or better. So you never know who those people are going to be. However, the clarity and the specificity of those things now has created and opened up the space for it. So the more specific you can be when setting the vision and setting the goals, it's not like, oh, well, I think this person will do this, so I'm going to make that number there. No. You're never attaching it to the people specifically. You hold the vision, and then it creates the space for the people to come into that vision. So I think the point is made. All right, who else?
Brad, you had your hand raised for a moment there. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, thanks for catching that, Selena.
Yes, sure. Thank you, guys. And Casey, it's nice to hear you again. I appreciate Jeff Gonzalez inviting me to the meeting this morning. I haven't sat in on this meeting before, but the meeting or the discussion started out with business and life balance. And, that's something that in my many years of work experience, first in many years of aerospace and now 22 years of real estate experience, balance of life and business has been super important. And I haven't always done a very good job at it. So I have got better at it the last maybe 5 years. And the last 2 years, I've really been focusing on that. To be honest, being very new with EXP, I joined in August. And so the organization building that I'm, hearing about and that I know that you folks are doing all around me is really interesting. It's something way past where I'm even able to talk about it. But business building is something that is on my 2023 business plan. And so anyways, I'm just here mostly to listen. But I did want to thank you guys for letting me just listen in. And my business niche is land sales, and I will be encouraging folks to join my land sales group. I'm in commercial real estate as opposed to realty at this moment, and, in the process of building a land group. So the process and the numbers of people that I would recruit to the company will be smaller numbers. Just out of that market niche, there's just a limited number of people who have interest in land, not limited number, but just limited number of people who have experience that would be able to recruit others. And in 20 years of experience of selling land, I know 5, 10 people that I think are really good trainers in that area other than myself. And that's industry wide in 2 or 3 different counties. And there's a lot of people who dabble in it. But anyways, I just wanted to say I'll be focusing more on individuals and individual development, but I'm listening and hearing and trying to learn from you all. So I appreciate the numbers and the goals. They're impressive. And so thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And my husband, Rick, has more, and he's been doing commercial and land. A good percentage of the listings he has right now are land listings, and that he sold last year. So a great connection and support there as well. I'm sure mutually, stuff that he can offer to you and that you can offer to him, and working more closely this year.
Excellent. I look forward to that. Thanks, Casey.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Who else?
I'll go. So we started working on this in December, and I'm ex-team leader, OP of a KW office. So I'm used to 135s and 411s. If you guys are familiar with any of that from the old KW days. So I have a 135 that I put together for our organization. And I think that just helps me kind of just stay clear on what I'm looking for. And I always try to put in, like you said, how do you have clarity behind it so that you know what number that looks like? So our number by the end of this year is to have 6,000 a month consistent coming in. And that pretty much just is going to pay for space, assistant, things like that we have going on with the organization. So get us to a point where we're at least at that place, and then build from there. And then my goal is really building other leaders. So we've got, right now I've got 11 FLAs and 8 FLQAs, but I only have 19 in my organization. So my goal is really to get some of these leaders, some of these people growing their organization, or bringing in, like you were talking about earlier, I need to have some other people really helping me grow this thing. I've got a bunch of people that it's not bad, but it takes a lot of energy when they're looking to you for all the leadership, and they're not wanting to be leading themselves or each other. So that's really one of my biggest ahas out of this last year, is really focusing on that and getting that in my group this year. I think just help support me and what we've got going on, and even just plugging into all the stuff you guys have. So we've got priority number 1 is retention, to keep all agents that we started this year with and help them hit their goals. So we did business planning with everybody, and I've got everybody on CTE. And so we're really doing some high level production. So that's probably what, I've got about 5 things underneath that. We're hosting profit and loss statement meetings monthly. We do 411 classes monthly, just different community involvement, promoting the classes. I'm really trying to lean more on EXP, the stuff that you guys are putting out there and the stuff Brent's putting out. So I've got, promoting the classes in Roseville, because he's putting out awesome content once a month. So I said, once a quarter at least, we're all going to drive down there and make it a big effort, push to really use what EXP is offering, instead of me feeling like I got to do it all. Priority number 2 is adding 10 FLQAs to our team, and 15 in my level 2 and 10 in my level 3. And then, so I'm hosting 8 local events for the realtor community. So I just go and teach and offer it up. I have it at a mortgage company, and Casey's come up and helped a couple times and done some classes, and Brent's come up. And so really leaning on those, and then really creating good follow-up systems behind that. And then just having fun with our group and team building events once a quarter, and then attending the conferences in Cabo, and then EXPCon and Build. So,
Very cool.
Yep. So we just laid it out like that, just to really kind of go, how do we get clarity on that? What do we want it to look like? So.
Yeah. So I have one clarifying question for you. Do you have a list of traits and characteristics of the leaders that you'd like to attract to the organization that will be leaders of selves and grow and build their own?
Do I have traits? No, but I have my list. My
Okay.
list is right there on my, I'm very clear on, and working on, I know who they are, right? And so, but they take a little longer than the low hanging fruit sometimes, like, because they're leaders sometimes in their own organization, and EXP is just getting going here in Chico. And so it's been a tough trying to get people to wrap their head around it. So I'm trying to get a few of them to Cabo, just to get outside of the local mindset of what EXP is locally and get, like, show them the bigger picture of everything too.
Cool. So I think one thing that could be something that you add in there just as a layer is, so for us, Rick's list is different than mine. However, the traits and characteristics of the individuals become important in what your experience is going to be as you work with them. So without regard to who the people are going to be, the list of like traits and characteristics. So for example, a coach had me do this for the first time, and this was back in 2006. And I was single at the time. And I was in a program where it was a goal setting program, and there was a relationship component to the goal setting. I'm like, I don't want a relationship. So I don't want to set a goal around a relationship. Right. And they're like, well, someday you're going to want a relationship. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really think I am going to want a relationship someday. I feel like I've checked the box, and based on the last one, don't need any more of those. And so they really, pushed back and were like, okay. And that would be, cutting off a piece of what it looks like to live a full life, because life is about relationships. So they ended up coaching me to a place where, okay, today you're not looking to be in a relationship. However, if someday that was going to be, what are all of the qualities, traits, and characteristics, like as specific as you can get them, to that person that you don't know, that you don't think exists because you've never met them. And so I did that, and they said, so they said, do a list of 100, and I think I got somewhere around 70. And they said, okay, I want you to put it on your refrigerator. So it's in front of you every day, and energetically, like, you're connecting with those traits to see, who comes into your life. Well, I put it on my refrigerator. So I did that. However, I put it on the side of the refrigerator that was slid back into the cutout, so that the list was invisible. And I never saw the list until I moved a couple of years later. And when I moved and the refrigerator came out, I was in a relationship with Rick by that time. This one, the husband guy. And I looked at the list that I had forgotten about, and he was like 55 of the 70 traits. And so the getting that kind of clarity, so internally motivated, service oriented, integrous, aligned, enthusiastic, solution oriented, like all of these traits and characteristics, if you get clear on the traits and characteristics of the people that you would like to bring into your organization, like, all organizations for the most part start local and grow global. And so while you're right now in the Chico market, as your organization grows and develops, it's not going to stay in the Chico market long. It's going to go way outside of the Chico market and bounce into different cities and different states, and eventually all over the world. So having that as a foundation where you're clear on the traits and characteristics of the leaders that you want to attract into the organization is going to support that internal piece that we talked about earlier in the call today. And that could be one thing that you look at, or one thing that you add to all the infrastructure that you already have in place, and the system and the very well thought out plan that you've got put together.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And those change, right? So my good friend Charlie, who's I speak of him often, he's the godfather to my godson. He did the same thing when he was single. He wrote a list of traits and characteristics. And then as he was going through that coaching, the question was like, okay, look at that list of traits and characteristics, and how many of those are you? And he's like, well, I'm some of them, but I'm not all of them. And so the coaching was, when you become all of those things, that is who you will attract, because we attract what we are, not what we want. And that piece, when you look at, okay, if currently I have an organization that's really dependent on me or looking at me, then they are more than likely learning based and they're coachable. However, Are they internally motivated? Are they self-starters? Are they leaders of self? Are they visionary? Like some of those additional traits for the next layer of people that come into the organization could support the alignment of you having leaders that lead without you. Cool, cool. All right. Who else?
I'll go.
Jeff.
All right.
Oh, wait. Do we have anything to celebrate?
We do. So Selena, you might want to recheck the numbers by the 25th because they haven't announced the December's icons. So being really clear, me and Casey were talking last month, me and Amberly needed like 5 deals. I was talking with Will too.
Yeah,
And it kind of goes, he's like, you got to hit it at least once because, it'll help your, prove that, it's real. I think a lot of people don't understand the icon, but yeah, we did hit it. Being really clear. I think Grant Cardone talks, pretty aggressive, but who's got my money? But I was thinking of who's got my icon award, so I started going through my list of people and wholesalers, and I worked a couple of deals off market. So we were able to hit it the very last day of December. And it was crazy because, they had the buyers signed Thursday night. By the time they funded, it was at, 1:45 and the county closes at 2 to record. And it was that holiday weekend. So the county tried not to record it and escrow got involved, but it was like, yes, but we were really clear about that. And, it came to us. So that was really good. So it should be 80 for their icons at least.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Because in November, I just want to say, like, Jeff started texting and he's like, this is going to be so important to the recruiting and building that we do in addition to our business. And here's what it's looking like. And it's not looking like it. And he was feeling frustrated. And I'm like, Jeff, get your head in the game. We have until the end of December. You never know how it's going to happen. You just got to get clear that it's happening. And like, seriously, you guys pulled it out of a hat and you went. And I always, one of my favorite lines is that he or she who is most certain always wins. Right. And then from a perspective of like, I knew how important that was to you guys. And so there was not a doubt in my mind that you were going to make it happen at all, even when you were feeling discouraged and overwhelmed and, bummed about it. And so I want to acknowledge you for keeping your head in the game and for following through with that, because not everybody, you know how many people throw in the towel right before the miracle hits and when they're that close. And the person that decides like, I have no idea how this is going to happen. However it is, you make that decision and the universe conspires along with your effort and activity that's aligned towards that to have it actually come to fruition. So, I mean, huge acknowledgement for you and Amberly on that. Huge.
Boy, thank you. And it's really hard too. Like I talked to the lender who closed it early last week, and you want to what's best for the client and everything to close, but without putting that out there. So I said, hey, I was going to take her out for a drink because I said, I got some, you're never going to believe it, but it meant a lot. So, going back to Brad, I think, with the, there's not a lot of land people, and that's true in commercial side. So I'm learning more of the commercial side so I can help support. But also what I've learned, in case you'll understand this in the short time I did a network marketing company with supplements. How do I get it? How do I get doctors? How do I get chiropractors? Well, you go find one, right? So like what I decided this last year, even though we were focused a lot on sales, was I want to get into the commercial space. And there's a lot of opportunity there and attraction. So I don't know any land people. A friend of Brad and I's referred Brad to me for his daughter looking at real estate, and things just came together. And I think also I feel with builders and it's people that you don't know. But yes, it would be great to have all the people that come join you or right away, but a lot of times they don't. Just like in real estate sales, it's great to have family and friends use you to get a jump start in your business, but you can't build a business just off friends and family. So that's kind of has been my focus is, okay, how can I go find more land people or commercial people? I'm teamed up with a outside brokerage on a commercial deal right now because I want to use that as a tool. I also learned, so we've just finished our second year in EXP. It's not as fast. Sometimes it's not as fast as you think it can go, but to stick with it. So for an example, it's just a lot of follow-up we're going on a ski trip this next weekend in Tahoe. So what I did is I lined up a gal we've been talking to for nearly the whole 2 years we've been in from Remax out in Fresno. She's pretty much ready to come on. She drove out to where you guys were at and the business planning event. So we're doing that, but on the way, I'm talking to this other younger guy because I would like a younger beast mode realtor guy in my organization. So I
I
started
love
talking
that
to
you
this guy.
caught your language. I love it. I love it.
So I rearranged the schedule a little bit. So we're going to drive to Lancaster and then to Fresno, and then we're going to go meet a lender in Merced all on Friday because he sent us a deal, a buyer. But you know, the connections with the lenders, title people, to give referrals for agents, right? And I think that's a huge part. We haven't done a ton. We've enrolled 19 agents. 2 we've lost from attrition. We have 17 on our FLAs, 10 are qualified, and we have 57 in our organization. We do get paid pretty decent because a lot of people are producing. So for my goals for this year is to double that. Our revenue quadrupled last year, even though our organization doubled. But it quadrupled because we have a lot of people producing. So my goal this year is another 17 to double that, because I know that'll get me to 34 enrolled. I figure at least half of those will be active. And that would get me to at least 15, 16, which we have agents, a couple of agents on our 4th level now. So I want to try to at least, you know, take advantage of that because I saw what happened on my 3rd level when we weren't 10 agents qualified. So that's the goal for that. And then to stay ahead of the curve. So when the agents start falling in on the very, you know, the lower levels, I'm not leaving money on the table, even though you get paid a small amount. But I looked at the numbers and our revenue probably would have 5x'd if I had those levels open for a few months that I didn't. So
I love that. So there's a couple of things I love about what you shared. Number one is doubling the size of the organization and 4 times in the amount that actually, you know, was generated, which is producing agents are happy agents are healthy agents, right? So it's not just bodies so that you've got number count in an org, it's an actual, the productivity of an organization, right? So, I mean, you could have 1,000 agents in your group. However, if only 200 of them or 250 of them are producing, like that's a lot of energy and effort to recruit bodies that don't actually aren't actually doing business. And so being intentional around who's coming into the organization and what they want, and as far as real estate in their career and all those kind of things are important. So I love it. Love the clarity. And I also love what you said. Sometimes it doesn't go as fast as you want. And there's times where we go slow to go fast. So if you look at your numbers, it's like, oh, maybe, you know, faster growth in the organization would have been great. However, because of the numbers that you did have and the productivity of the agents within those numbers, you get to the outcome that you're looking at maybe faster from a financial perspective due to that level of productivity. And so it's always important to think big picture and not get too hung up on the actual numbers, stay more on a, 25,000 foot view of why are we doing this? Where are we going? And having that strategy in place, and it will happen as it happens. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to share before we wrap up the call? Don?
No, I was just saying thank you. I got to run. I'm an appraiser too, so I'm off to an appraisal.
Okay.
I have an
Okay.
appraisal division, a real estate division. I got all that stuff.
I've got 15 streams of income.
I do. That's why I have appraisal, EXP, escrow,
All that kind of fun stuff.
all right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments, questions, anything they'd like to add to the conversation today?
You mentioned you guys did a lot of professional development. Like that's where I'm headed. Is there a list of books and things assembled somewhere?
Yeah. So do you want to go slow or do you want to go fast?
Come on now. Case, you only know I got one speed.
I know. Okay. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Think of the best book you've ever read. What's your favorite book? He froze.
But I think one of the ones that I enjoyed was 7 levels of highly effective.
Oh, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
I
like,
read that. I like that.
okay. So what does it say on page 67?
I don't know.
And I'm making a point. When we read things and take in intellectual knowledge, it doesn't create change necessarily, because intellectual knowledge with application over a long period of time is where change happens. But there's another kind of knowledge that you can take in and training that you can do, and that's experiential training. Jeff's wife, Amberly, did that in 2022. Selena did that in 2022. I started that journey in 2006. And the difference with experiential training is that it's not the reason and logic part of your brain of where things are going to come from. There's a very small percentage. The most powerful part of your mind and where that comes from comes back to what we're saying at the beginning of the call with As a Man Thinketh. In his heart, so is he. That is the subconscious part of your brain that you cannot sit and think about and go, oh, what's happening in my subconscious brain right now? That's not how you access it. But your subconscious brain, while you're asleep, is responsible for the dreams that you have that wake you up, where you feel like that's real life that's happening. That brain is going all of the time, and it's driving your behavior, beliefs, perspectives, actions, and results. And so what experiential training is designed to do is to trigger the subconscious as you're going through it, so that those things come to the surface and you can look at what is the dialogue and conversation that's actually happening at that level in your brain based on the results that you created in that experience of 32 different exercises. Specifically, I'm referring to in the basic. And then you can translate that, oh my gosh, I can see that that is responsible for what I'm creating in this area of my life and what I experienced in this area of my life, and all of those different things, taking an inventory. And then in the moment, now that you have awareness, it's awareness before change. So you get skills and tools to be able to dial those in at a higher level. So when I think about alignment, right? If you have your head in one place and your heart's in another, all day long with your head, you can say, here's where I want to go. But if your heart is not aligned with that, meaning in the subconscious part of your mind, you're never going to hit or come close to where you want to go because you don't have that alignment. So the experiential training creates the awareness to bring things to the surface. It helps you create the own personal alignment within yourself. And then you leave with skills and tools, now having an emotional attachment to a new experience. And the best way that I can describe it is, like, we all have those days or times in our lives where something happens. Maybe it is the day you got married, the birth of a child, the loss of a loved one, an unfortunate severe accident, where in that moment you have an emotional attachment to a new experience that forever changes the way that you look at life and the world and how you conduct yourself. And the same thing is what's possible with experiential training. So, while you're not able to say what's on page 67 of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Franklin Covey, you'll be able to say, like I'm able to say, oh, in March of 2006, I sat in this class and I had a realization of a belief and a thought process that I had that I didn't realize that I had, and identified where it came from, which was an experience in 5th grade that was actually a positive experience that I developed a negative programming in my subconscious about. And once I had awareness of that, I go, oh, God, it's still there. That will never go away. However, now I have something new on top of it to create from. So, if you're really looking to accelerate what happens for you, I do not know of a better place to do that than the training that Selena did, that Amberly did, that both Rick and I have done through PSI seminars. And by the way, if you wanted to do that, you can come to San Francisco Bay Area this weekend, because there is one that's happening this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And as a matter of fact, one of the former pro ball players that's here just texted me his confirmation. He will be in that class as a result of our conversations here during this week. So, yeah.
Can you send me the link? I won't make it this weekend, but I'm going to do it when they're back in Orange County, maybe? Are they in Orange County sometime?
Yeah, you can do it in Orange County. Yep.
It's totally worth it, Will.
Yeah, send it to me.
Yep, I'll send you the registration link, then you can just pick the city and the dates and availability all from there. Cool, cool. All right,
Okay.
well, we are coming to the top of the hour. I'm super excited that we actually, this was a really fun call, a smaller group, a little more intimate. Our call that will be the first week of the month, we're going to be having a couple of really cool interviews on. To undisclosed who those are going to be with. However, we will be doing that and we will promote it better so that we'll have more attendance. That was, again, I take responsibility for the lack of promotion on this one. However, so great to see and be with everyone here today. And love and hugs from Rick and Casey to all of you. And we will talk to you soon.
Thanks all.
Thanks,
Bye.
Casey.